And then let me share the screen. Okay. So yeah, so we have already completed week 10, and now we'll be recapping this week on this week number 11, where we'll be exploring about object detection and segmentation. So specifically, we'll be touching like how we can perform object detection on like custom data sets. So for this session, we will be using a popular object detection algorithm called YOLO, which stands for You Only Look Once algorithm. And we will try to build one object detection algorithm on our custom data set. So that means, we will be like using a open source data set that is hosted on Kaggle or like some open source platforms. And then from that, we'll take the data set and then try to build our own custom detection algorithm. So for our problem statement, I've created a notebook file, and we will just try to explore this notebook and then try to build something out of it. So I'll let you share this notebook file with you so that you could also follow along with whatever we're doing here. Okay, let me share this with you. And then I'm going to send it over in the chats. Okay. So what is object detection? So can you tell like what is object detection?
Okay, let me check the link.
Sorry?
Checking out the link you sent.
Okay. So let me show you. We're going to use Jamboard. And then let me go to this link. Let me close all these links. Unnecessary links. Okay, not gonna use this, not gonna use this, not gonna use this, not gonna use this, not gonna use this. Okay. So today's week we are working on like object detection. So just to give you a brief overview what an object detection is. So I think last week we discovered or we learned about image classification, right? So this week we are focusing on object detection. So there is some difference between image classification and object detection. So in image classification, what happens? You are provided with an image. So in image classification, what happens is like you are given an image. So in that image that can have or maybe a person or any like dog or something, an animal or something, right? And then so what image classification does is like you had an image and you feed that image into an algorithm, and in that algorithm you have a CNN, so that stands for convolution neural network. And that convolution neural network, what it does, it takes in the input image, and then based on the input image features, right, it extracts the features by using various layers. And in each of these layers we have like a convolution layer, max pooling layer, and followed by a dense layer, like where there are like every neuron connected to every neurons. So there is also a dense layer, and then at the end we have an output layer, so which outputs whether the image contains, let's say, a dog or a person. So that's what it happens in an image classification. What it does, it takes an image and it just tries to classify one of these labels. It doesn't provide where, like it doesn't, gives the location of an image. So where in that image is that particular object located? So that information is missing in image classification. So that can be tackled by object detection. So that's where object detection comes in. So object detection, what it does, so you are given with an image, right? And you feed this image into an algorithm. So that algorithm is like, it also uses a CNN, convolution neural network, but like the way the learning paradigm is adjusted here, it not only learns to output the labels, but also output the bounding box. Where is that particular object in an image. So let's say your person is here, and this is a label of a person. So this is a person. And then you feed that image into this CNN or object detection algorithm. And this object detection algorithm outputs the image labels. So that is, this is a person. And then along with that, it also, provides us where that person is particularly located in an image. So that is denoted by this bounding box. So that's a kind of complicated process, right? So a more complicated process than image classification problem. In image classification problem, you don't need to specify the location, but in object detection, you need to specify, or your algorithm would be able to find out where that location of that object is. So that's the difference. And right here, so object detection is a fascinating field in computer vision that aims to do exactly what it sounds like: identify and locate objects of interest in images and videos. So where this kind of thing is particularly used. So let's say, so Tesla is building a self-driving car, right? So if your Tesla car only has a feature of like classifying an image, right? It doesn't work, right? And in a real world scenario, what happens in one image, let's say in one frame or one camera frame, not only one object is present in an image, right? So that's why it's really difficult to classify the whole image into one sections. So let's say there are bunch of objects. So let's say there are 5 person here walking down the street, and there are like cars, there are like trucks, right? Everything is there in the image. So at that condition, your image classification doesn't gonna work, because in real time you can have like a lot of objects, and under that scenario, so how are you going to classify it, right? So for that, we need an image object detection algorithm. So it will identify, okay, this is a car, this is a person, this is also a person, and this is a truck. And it also identifies the location where they are. So suppose you are driving a car, and this is like a zebra crossing, and you are here, right? Your car is here, and then you suddenly see a person crossing the lane through the zebra crossing. Oh, then what it does? Oh, it identifies it's a zebra crossing, and one person is suddenly crossing the road from here. So maybe we need to stop it, right? Stop it right here. But if a person is like crossing the road from here, maybe it will cross the road through zebra crossing, and here you can see the person, maybe it will wait, right? So that's kind of thing, for building that kind of user agents, you need like complex algorithms, advanced than image classification. So that's where object detection comes in. So you can see in an image also here. So what you can see is like there's a traffic light, and there is like persons walking around here and there, and you can see it that your algorithm is like identifying it's a traffic light, so it's a person walking, and this is a handbag, right? So this is his backpack, this is a person, and maybe this is a suitcase. So you can figure out like where that particular person is and what he is doing, whether he's carrying some handbag or not. So that's how it is. So what are some of the application areas of object detection? So why we need object detection? We already figured out like there is some drawbacks in image classification problem that cannot be applied to real-time problems, because in real-time problems, you are not encountered with only one kind of objects in an image or in a camera frame. So in that situation, you not only tries to classify a whole image into one class, but you have to subcategorize the whole image into small objects, and then categorize each of them into different classes, right? So one such application area is like self-driving cars, as we already mentioned. So object detection is crucial for self-driving cars to navigate safely, right? So to travel, it needs to identify pedestrians walking down the lane, and if there are pedestrians walking, it may change its direction, it may change its speed depending on like the number of depending on the volume of pedestrians walking in the streets, right? So by identifying and locating pedestrians, vehicles, traffic lights, and other obstacles in real time, object detection algorithms help autonomous vehicles make informed decisions and avoid accidents, right? So next one is security and surveillance. So it is also one of the important things that can be implemented, like for security and surveillance, to figure out what is what exactly is suspicious in that video, right? So let's say let's say you have a surveillance camera at your bank, right? And what it does, it tries to identify the objects and their actions, what kind of actions they are doing, right? And then suddenly two persons started fighting there, right? Then what it does is like your algorithm detects that two person, and then their actions also, right? So their normal actions is like just moving or like sitting. That is like the normal kind of actions that usually human do. And if they perform some actions that may be harmful to the society, or that they are fighting each other, if it understands that they are using such kind of actions, then it will trigger an alarm. Okay, maybe there is fighting happening there, so you should trigger an alarm. Another safety and surveillance can be like fire detection algorithm. So let's say you have a surveillance camera around here, and around your home area or locality, or maybe in banks, and you suddenly sees a fire coming up from somewhere, or maybe maybe something has exploded, and then there's a fire, and it can detect that fire, and then based on that fire detection this based on like the algorithm detecting its fire, it may trigger an alarm, and then it could help us in security, right? And similarly in surveillance system also, like, so let's say so there is a traffic light system, and let's say a car, what it does, it like instead of stopping on a red light, what it does, it crosses the road in red light also. Under that situation, it needs to identify which car violates the traffic rules, right? So for that car, maybe it identifies the number plate of the car, and then gives them fines, right? So that kind of security and surveillance systems also, object detections are specifically being used. And next one is the medical imaging. So it is one of the like major research areas where like a lot of algorithms and a lot of things are being researched upon recently in the field of medical imaging and medicine, because a lot of the tests that we perform, like let's say we try to examine our chest, right, whether we are suffering from pneumonia or not. What we do is we examine our chest using like x-rays, and that x-rays is an image, right? And then from those medical scans and the x-rays, what does the radiologist do? The radiologist just look at those x-rays and figure out, oh, there at that particular part you have fluid located in your lungs. So maybe due to that fluid, you have the chances of like 90% chance that that fluid would develop into a pneumonia or something, right? So that kind of informed decisions can be made by examining those chest x-rays. So what our algorithms can also do is like, our algorithms are also capable enough to understand what is in the image, and where and what location that particular object is located in an image. Maybe brain tumor, like CT scans, right? CT scans from a CT scans of brain, if fed it into a computer vision algorithm or machine learning algorithm, our algorithms are capable enough to detect and identify the location of tumor in the brains, right? So that is also that is also one of the fascinating areas that most of the research are being on in medical imaging. So next one is retail and manufacturing. So I think this is also one of the challenging aspect also, and this is also one of the like important applications where like most of the computer visions algorithm are used recently, because most industries try to automate their solutions, right? Try to do automation, and for that doing the automation, so they are using these computer vision systems like for product tracking. So let's say you have let's say in a retail, you arranged all your stocks in a way, and let's say one of the stock is um, let's say at particular sections in your stock, the volume of stocks is declining, then your computer vision systems are alert, oh, here at this section your number of goods need to be repopulated or need to be restocked. that kind of thing can be done in retail and manufacturing also, like anomaly detection, quality control. So let's say you are a soap manufacturing company, and then you can detect the quality of soaps. Let's say it's a white soap, right? And let's say if suddenly some polluted agents are, so there may be some polluted agents during the manufacturing of soap, right? And your soap can be, used for inspection process by using artificial intelligence or computer vision systems, and that computer vision systems would immediately detect, oh, there is some polluted objects in your soap. So that is maybe that is maybe due to the fact that there is some malfunctioning in the manufacturing process. So it will detect it, and then it will resend that for doing for for improving their products. So yeah, there are plenty of applications. So yeah, some of the application areas are these. So today, today we'll be specifically focusing on like medical imaging. We will be dealing with some medical problem statement, and we'll try to build our own algorithm, or we'll try to train our own YOLO algorithm using YOLO algorithm using Ultralytics library. Okay. So why object localized location is better than image classification? We already discussed about it, but for medical imaging, so lack of specificity. So in image classification, what it does, so it only identifies, let's say you are given a chest X-ray image, and then based on it, it only says like the chest X-ray contains pneumonia and not contains pneumonia, but it doesn't give more information about why it is considered a pneumonia, because it has fluid, it has fluid. So let's say in a chest X-ray image, there is a fluid inside your lungs, or there is a fluid being collected inside your lungs. So due to that, your algorithm is saying like, oh, there is a fluid in your lungs, so that's why you have a sign. You may be suffering from pneumonia, right? So for capturing that level of detail, we need object detection to detect or to locate the position of water in the lungs. So similarly, for detecting the position of tumor inside your brain, you also need object detection. So that's why object detection is needed. So now let's jump into our problem statement. So the problem statement we are dealing today is like, we are trying to detect the kidney stone detection. So let's say, so this is our kidney. So we have two kidneys, right? So one is right kidney and one is left kidney. And yeah, sometimes what happens is like, there is like dust particles, right? So there is a dust particles or like being, collected inside our, kidneys, and you can see it. It also, sometimes those stones can also be seen in urinary bladder, which, affects our urination systems. So yeah, so what kidney does is like it purifies the impure blood, and when there is a stone, right, it affects our urinary system, and so that's why. So in this project, what we are doing is we try to detect whether there is some dust particles or a stone being present in the kidney or not. So for that, we would be using a CT scan of our kidneys, right? And based on the CT scans of our kidneys, our algorithm will look at the CT scans of our kidneys, and then based on that, it will tries to locate whether there is a stone present in that kidney or not. Okay. So this is the overview of our data set. So this is the link where we can find our data set. So our data set is actually taken from this Colab, this Kaggle data repository. You can see it's a kidney stone images with bounding box annotations. So this is something about data, and this is the data we have, right? So it's already being properly annotated, so we don't have to do a lot of things here, but we try to understand what all things happen, right? So this is our test data, this is our train data, and this is our validation data. Okay, so you can see you have images, and then you can see the CT scan images here, and yeah, so these are images, and maybe we don't know where it is kidney, right? Where exactly there is. So based on this, you need to figure out whether there is a stone or not. Okay, so let's get into here. So about data set, we have we have a wide variety of kidney stone images capturing different sizes, shape, and positions within the urinary system. So all of these kidneys, all of these, stones are related to urinary systems. And the diversity ensures that object detection algorithms are robust and capable of identifying kidney stones in various clinical scenarios. And we also have annotated bounding box. So what does this annotated bounding box means? Is that we are not only provided with the image, but we are also provided with what? Labels. So that labels contains, you can see that, you can just take a look at this. So that label contains this 0 is like a class, and this is the position within an image where that stone is located. So this is your X center, this is your Y center, this is your width of the bounding box, and this is your height of the bounding box. Okay, so let me explain what does this mean. So let's say this is, let's say this is your image of a person, right? And in that image of a person, that person is here, right? So the image is like, let's say image is 600 by 600 image, 600 width by 600 image, but your image, your particular person is located in this part of the image. So let's say this bounding box coordinate, you need to find this bounding box coordinates, right? So in this format, so in this is called YOLO annotation format. So you need to understand about various kinds of formats, right? So this is a YOLO annotation format. So it usually indicates, so there are 5 components here. So first, there are 5 components here. Let's try to understand this analogy first. Okay. So this first component is the class, right? Is the class. So here is 0. So what does 0 signify? So whenever you are doing an annotation, so what happens is like, so let's say there are 3 class, that is human, dog, and let's say cat. Then let's say your human is given class 0, dog is given class 1, and cat is given class 2, and here is a human, so that is its first value is 0 because it belongs to human class. So let's say here is a dog, here is a dog, and dog, right? So then what happens? The first character would be 1, and then you would be given the other coordinates, right? So what does this coordinate mean then, right? So the first coordinate is X center. So what does this X center means? So X center is this. You see this bounding box? The bounding box center is called X center. Okay. Similarly, the bounding box center Y coordinate is called Y center. So this first is X center, and this second is Y center, right? So let's say from this bounding box, you have this center, and this center has its X coordinate and its Y coordinate. So this X coordinate is this, and this Y coordinate is this, right? And then another coordinate is like the width. So width is width of the bounding box. What is the width of the bounding box? So this is your width of the bounding box. And then next one is your height of the bounding box. Your height of the bounding box. So they are all in YOLO format, right? That means they are normalized in such a way that their value is very, very small, right? So they are normalized. They are a normalized version of it, right? So what we need to do is we need to find this coordinate and this coordinate, right? So what is this coordinate and what is this coordinate, right? So we need to find their real coordinates. So these are the normalized coordinates of, the objects, but we need to convert this into their real coordinate system. So real coordinate system is, so this is center. So that means what it does is, so this X center, right? So what we do, we'll this X center minus, let's say, the whole width of the image, right? So this X center will go to this, right? This, and then we'll carry this. So we need to figure out this coordinate. So this X center and this is minus, we'll do subtraction and then we'll try to figure out this coordinate and then this coordinate, right? We'll try to figure out this left, top left and bottom right coordinate. Okay, so for finding bottom left, what we do? We'll do X center minus, so this is your whole width, width by 2. Width by 2 means this, that means you will get your X coordinate, width by 2. And then similarly for your Y coordinate, actual Y coordinate, what will you do? YC minus H by 2. Because this is your Y coordinate, right? And then you need to go subtract this coordinate because this whole is your H, and then H by 2 means half, and then you will go this, and then you will go this. That means you will get here. So you will get this coordinate. And then you need to convert it into the real coordinate system so that you will divide it into width of the image. WIT, width of the image, that is 600, not the bounding box, width of the image. So that means your real X1, let's say this is X1, Y1, and this is X2, Y2. Your real X1 equals to XC, that is center, minus width by 2, and then you will multiply with width of real image, that is 600, not the bounding box. So that's how you will get this X1, right? Then this X1 may be, let's say, 90 or something, because it is 600 by 600 image, and from here to here, maybe you have moved 90 distance to X, right? And similarly, your Y may be 80, right? So you have to figure out the real coordinates. So for that, we will be doing some analysis later on. Okay. So let's try to understand this. Okay. So I think we have already tried to understand what it is. So what we try to understand, there is an image in the data set, right? And we also have their labels. So that labels means which class does that image belong to, and the location of like stone in the kidney. Okay, so we have this, and based on this we are going to train our algorithm. Okay, so let's try to import all the necessary libraries we have. Let's try to do some coding here. Okay, so we have these libraries which we will use here. So this is operating system, this is OpenCV, CV2. We'll use for like doing image analysis and doing any sort of image processing operations. So this is JSON. I don't think we'll need this. You can remove this. And this is a NumPy. This is a pandas. I don't think we need this, or maybe we can use this, right? So this is a C1. This is usually used for doing data visualization. This is also data visualization library. This is usually used to display the progress bar if you are running complex problems, which take a lot of time. And this is a zip file. So this is usually a function, or usually a method, or usually a library that allows you to unzip your zip file. If your data is in zipped, right, format, then you can unzip it using this library. And CV2_IM, so it usually tries to render an image in a Google Colab environment, right? Usually Google Colab doesn't allow to render it like we can render in our local computer. So for that rendering purpose, we use a specific functionality called CV2_IM. So for that thing. Okay, so let's try to run this. Okay, we've run it. And now what we're going to do is we need to download this data set. Okay, so either we download it directly from here, or we download this and then upload it to Drive and then download it. Okay, so for our simplicity purpose, we have already downloaded this data. It is in zip format. And now from this Google Drive, we are going to download it into our Colab environment. Okay, so this is the Drive link for it. So you can just download it. Okay, now you can see. Now you can see you have downloaded this data. Okay, so you can see this data is in zip format. So now we need to unzip it, right? So for unzipping it, what we are using it, archive equals to zip file. So we are using this library, and then we are providing this data. Okay, what is the name of the data? This is archive.zip. Okay, so we are providing this path. We are removing this, and then content/archive.zip, and then where are we going to extract content? This is the content, or we are going to create a new folder named data, and inside data we will have the images. Okay, so let's try to run it, and then you refresh it. You can see there is a new folder called data, and inside data you can see all these files and folders gets downloaded it over here. Okay, so what? Okay, so we have this data. Now we have the data. So now we are going to apply the algorithm. Okay, so but before applying this algorithm, let's try to understand how YOLO works. Okay, so let's try to understand more about this algorithm. We know we are trying to use object detection algorithm, but which object detection algorithm we are trying to use? We are trying to use YOLO algorithm, which stands for you only look once. Okay, so why it is called you only look once? Because it is single pass processing. In YOLO, it performs object detection in single pass, eliminating the need for a two-step process. So before YOLO algorithm, so there were other object detection algorithms as well, right? Like mask RCNN, RCNN, faster RCNN. So there were other object detection algorithms also before the introduction of YOLO, but they rely on two-stage process. So what they do? First, they try to detect objects, or they try to extract features from the object and detect object, and then they try to classify them. So there are two stages that's usually in their algorithm process. But YOLO, removes the two-stage process, and it, just do all of this detection and classification thing in a single pass. So that's why YOLO algorithm are super fast to them, faster RCNN and RCNN algorithms. So that's why it is considered as the state-of-the-art algorithm, because of its detection accuracy and speed. So next one is bounding box prediction. It does the prediction of the bounding box, where exactly the object is situated in an image. And it is a grid system, and it also assigns the class probability, and it also provided anchor boxes, and it does real-time object detection. Okay, so there are various versions of YOLO available right now. So I think it started from YOLO v1. Now we can have like YOLO v8 algorithm. We have reached down YOLO v8 algorithm as well. So let's understand how YOLO works. Okay, so this is the figure you can see. Okay, so here you can see this is your React train, so which is an image. So you can see the image of a dog, right? So you also, what you are doing? So you are feeding the image as well as their labels. So this is your X train is your image, and this Y train is your labels. So in labels, you have first one is PC. So that means presence of class or not. So there is a dog. So that is dog is presence of class. So that is 1. And their bounding box. So bounding box is like 50. So it starts from 50. So bounding box BX means 50, 70. This coordinate is 50, 70. And this coordinate. So we only need two different things, right? So if we know top left and bottom right, we can create a rectangle from it. We know that. So top left is 50, 70, and bottom right is 60, 70. Okay. And then C1, C2 is like the class. So since there are only two class, one is dog and another is person. So first class is dog. So that's why C1 equals to 1 and C2 is 0, because there is no human or person here. Okay. Similarly, for in our next image, you can see, so there is a person. So person is like presence of class, because there is either dog or a person. So that's why 1, because there is a presence of class. And next one is like the bounding box coordinate, top left, bottom right. So top left is 30, 55, and bottom right is 28, 82, right? And then 0. So C1 equals to 0 means this is no dog, but a person. C1, C2 is person class, so that is person. So similarly, in our third image, there is no neither a dog, neither a person. So that's why the presence of class is 0. And rest of the bounding box, so there are no person or no dog. So that's why we left it as don't cares, right? There is nothing. So that's how we prepare the data, right? So that's how we have the data. We will send the image as well as these features into a neural network. And then what it learns, it tries to learn, it learns to, when we feed an image, it tries to learn this labels, right? When we feed an image, it tries to output this. Okay, so here you can see during training, we provide both image and labels, right? And then it tries to learn these labels, right? It tries to learn whether there is a presence of class or not, what is the bounding box, if there is a presence of class, and which class is it, right? And then that's how it is defined. Okay. So in a machine learning algorithm, it always has a loss function, right? So what is a loss function here? So there are two different kind of loss function. So one is localization loss, another one is classification loss. Okay. So what is localization loss then? So there are two kind of loss. So let's say you are a person here. Okay. So that is your ground truth. So ground truth means where exactly the person is here, right? So whenever you are trying to train your algorithm, you human label it as this. This is the annotation labeled by human being, and human annotated it this way. So this is the presence of human. And let's say you run a YOLO detection algorithm, and then your object detection algorithm detects it like this, right? So let's say your object detection algorithm detects it like this, right? So this is your algorithm detection. This is what your algorithm detect, and this is what your ground truth is. Okay. And their ground truth of this particular object is person, and your algorithm also detects it as a person. Okay. And then based on it, it has two kind of loss. So one is classification loss, another one is bounding box loss. Okay. So how classification loss performs? So since its ground truth is also person, your algorithm also detect person. So that means your classification accuracy is correct. That is 100% for one image, right? And let's say your ground truth is this, but your bounding box is this. So that means your bounding box is not fitted properly. Okay. So your bounding box is not fitted properly. So for that, you have a regression loss, right? So to, convert this. So let's say your x1, y1 is this, and x3, y3 is this, and your u value is this, and your value is this. And then based on it, you can subtract and calculate the distance. And based on it, you also calculate the distance. And then you can get a loss, regression loss, right? Oh, this is also one kind of thing. Or another thing is like we have intersection over union. We also call it as IOU. How we measure the accuracy of our object detection algorithm. So how IOU is measured, let's say we already talk about this is your ground truth, okay? And this is your predicted. This is your predicted, this is your ground truth, okay? And we can compute IOU, that stands for intersection over union. It is equals to ground truth intersection predicted divided by ground truth union predicted. So that means which region falls under both your ground truth, and so this section from there to this part falls on both, right? Ground truth as well as prediction. So that's that come under here, and this all comes under here, and then we'll do this, and from there we can get like 0. Let's say 6 or something, right? So this is your 0.6, and then if you have a dog, this is your bounding box for a dog, actual bounding box, but your ground truth is detecting from here to here, right? And this both, where this both boxes lies, so this is called ground truth intersection prediction divided by, and this whole box union equals to ground truth union prediction. And then based on it, you will get 0.3 or something like that. And then you try to increase this value to 1. So that is 1 loss, right? This is a regression problem because there is a 0.3, 0.6, 0.7, 0.9, 0.3, 0.2, 0.5. This you try to minimize, or you try to minimize loss, or you try to increase IOU, intersection over union, right? Such that your prediction also this, and then your bounding actual ground truth also falls this, and then your prediction also falls this, such that your IOU is like 0.95 or something like that. Okay, so, and based on this, you have 1 loss, that is called regression loss. You try to optimize this IOU value, and another value is your classification loss. So let's say this is let's say one thing is, let's say this is a person, it identifies it correctly, right? Your ground truth and your ground truth of predicted value is same, but instead of saying this is a person, your model says this is a dog. So that is a classification error, right? And this also needs to be optimized. Okay, so that's why we have 2 loss. One is classification loss, another one is regression loss. Regression loss is, computed by using intersection over union formula. Okay, what is intersection over union? Intersection over union is ground truth intersection predicted divided by ground truth plus union predicted. So that's how loss is computed. Okay, so I think we have already covered a lot of things here. So there are 2 loss, that is, one is localization loss, this is called bounding box loss, and next one is classification loss. We already discussed about it. Okay, so that's how your training is done. Okay, and then in the testing stage, what happened? You will not send this bounding box coordinates, but you will only send the image of a dog, and then based on it, it gives this score. So first one is presence of object. Okay, so our model was trained to detect either dog or person, so there is a presence of class 1, and this x1 y1 and x2 y2. So this is the bounding box coordinate, right, of the model. And then 1 and 0, c1 c2. C1 is class of dog, c2 is class of person. So it is classifying it as a dog, which is good, and its bounding box coordinates is this. And based on this coordinates, we try to create a rectangle in that image using OpenCV. Okay, so that's how your YOLO object detection algorithm works. So this works like this. Okay, so you send this image, and then you send these labels to a convolution neural network, and it tries to learn the mappings, right? What it tries to learn? It tries to learn this vector. It tries to learn this vector when you provide it with this image. And for that, it tries to minimize 2 different kind of loss. So one such loss is regression loss, that's and another one is classification loss. So classification loss is your model should not say a person if your input image has a dog in it. Your model does not have to say a person is a dog. And your localization loss, what it does, so you suppose your dog is here, but your model should not classify this black object as a dog, but this object is a dog, right? So this is also, these 2 things needs to be learned by the model. These 2 mappings needs to be learned by the model. Okay, That's what it is. So let's try to implement YOLO algorithm. Okay, so for doing this, it's really easy. So I think this Ultralytics library, these developers of this Ultralytics company have made implementing YOLO algorithm really easy. You just need to do install Ultralytics, right? Let's install them. Okay, so this is one of the library that we need to install for using YOLO. So what is Ultralytics? If you know, just go search here. So Ultralytics is this. So this is they are the uh, developers, or they are the founders of YOLO V8, right? So these are the companies, or these are the people who have developed YOLO version 8. I think the initial developers who have developed YOLO, they have already left contributing to YOLO algorithms, because they thought like it is a danger to the society and community. So that's why they decided to not contribute further into this algorithm. But other open source communities have decided to take it to next step or to further. So that's where Ultralytics library, they usually release YOLO V8. And yeah, so they have a lot of things provided to how to install it. So first you need to install Ultralytics, or you can do installation from two different process. Either you can just use pip install Ultralytics, or you can, if you want to deep dive into what sort of code they have used, and if you wanted to um, uh, refactor their code base, and refactor their code base, then you can use their GitHub repository, direct cloning their, you can clone their repository and then install the required libraries you want. Okay, so but we are using this simple approach here, right? We can also go down this path also, but yeah, for simplicity we are just sticking with the installation Python package. Okay, so so we have already installed it. So now what we need to do is we need to download the models, right? So we already done, I think in our last class, what we do is we use the concept of transfer learning, right? So what is transfer learning is, right? So transfer learning is a technique where your, your algorithm has been already trained on a large data or large image data, and then you are just transferring the knowledge that your algorithm has already learned to a relatively simpler data set, or simpler task but related tasks, right? Relatively simpler but related tasks. Okay, so we have YOLO algorithm which has already been trained on their benchmarking data set, right? So COCO data set. So COCO is a, if you do not know about what COCO data set is, so COCO is a large object detection data set. I think this is a kind of competition that was hosted back by, I think, Microsoft or something. Yes. So and then so they have a huge collection of data set where there are like at least 80 different classes or 90 different classes of objects present in an image, and these algorithms have are already successful in classifying and detecting those 80 to 90 different classes, right? So we are using their pre-trained models here. So we are not, firstly, we are not doing any training. We're just trying to use their model. Okay. So for that, we need a model that they have already. So for that, we need to download their models. So let's try to check what models they have. Let's try to go into YOLO V8. And then here you can see there are plenty of models: YOLO V8, YOLO V8 segmentation, YOLO V8 pose, YOLO V8 CLS. So there are various tasks, right? Each of these models are designed for various tasks. So one is detection, one is segmentation, one is pose estimation, another is classification. So here the task is detection. So we are going to detection. And then there are plenty of models that are available that can be used. So for this here, we are using the simple, or you can go to your large algorithm. Let's go. I think training large algorithm require a lot of time. So let's go with medium. Okay. So we're gonna use copy link address, and then what we can do is wget, and then you can just copy it and then run it. Okay, and you can see your model has been downloaded successfully. Okay, you can see this model has already been downloaded successfully. Okay, so now let's try to run inference on any images. So okay, so for simplicity I'm using let's say this image. Okay, so I'm using this images and then try to feed this image and then see what whether it could detect this persons in the image or not. So let's try to let's go inside pictures, inside screenshots. We have okay, Fuse Machines Team Dinner.jpg, and then we are feeding this data here. Okay, so we have the image. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to provide YOLO trained weights path. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to apply inference. So for inferencing, we have CV2 library. We have already imported it. So one another library is PIL, that is a pillow library, and from PIL we are importing image, and then from Ultralytics library we are importing YOLO, and then what we need to do is we need to provide the path. Okay, like weights underscore path equals to, so this is the path of the weights. Okay, no, I think we need to give this path, not this. Okay, and then what we need to do is we need to run inference. Okay, so we need to load our model. So that is model, or you can say YOLO underscore model. YOLO underscore model equals to YOLO, and then you need to give this weights path, and then run it. Okay, now your model has been loaded successfully. Now you need to apply detection on image dataset. Okay, so for that we need to first read image equals to, so first of all we need to open the image.open, so that's why we use this library. Okay, and then we need to provide the path of the image. So this is the image path that we are providing now. Okay, and then what we need to do is we need to do predictions. Okay, so we need to results equals to model dot predict. We have to provide source equals to image, and then save equals to true, and then we can just run it. Okay, it's giving us error because it doesn't find this model variable. I think we need to give YOLO underscore model, replace it with YOLO underscore model, and then run it again. And now you can see it's running successfully. Okay, so it has already been run, and you can see its results have been saved inside this directory. Okay, so now to see the results, we need to refresh this, and you can see there is a runs, and inside runs we have detect, inside detect we have predict, and inside predict you can see this image. Okay, and you can clearly see here this model is successfully detecting these objects. So this is a person, it is successfully detecting it. This is also person is successfully detecting it. This is also person is successfully detecting it. And this is also person, and there is a TV here. It is, I think, misclassifying it as a TV. It is not a TV. It's like a refrigerator or something. Okay. So yeah, that's how we can run an inference on the YOLO models. So we haven't done any training or something. We are just using the pre-trained weights of YOLO, which has been trained on other, COCO data sets, and just try to infer it, because the data set that they have used in COCO, there were person, right? So that's why it is able to detect it. There were also TV. That's why it's giving this label, but this is not a TV. Okay. So now, So are we clear up to here?
Yeah, you know that.
Okay. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to train it on this data set, right? So we have training data set, we have validation data set, and then we have test data set. So now we need to do training on it. So, but let's try to see how our image is like before doing training. Okay, so let's try to keep image name. So image name equals to, we are giving this image name, right? And then we are also giving labels name equals to same, but we have, instead of JPG, we will give text TXT, and inside this images, we give labels, right? Because you can see data and then test, you can see images and then labels, right? For each of the image, so there is an associated label. Okay, so that's why we are giving it. So for each of these image, we have their associated labels. Okay, so that's why we are providing image name and their labels name. And then what we need to do is we need to read this text file, because inside this text file we have the bounding box information. Okay, so first let's read the image. Let's only read the image first. For that, we need to do img underscore array equals to cv2 dot im read. We're gonna read image name, and then cv2 underscore im show, and then image underscore array. You can see this is the kidney, and in this kidney there is like some sort of stone, right? So there is a stone, but we don't know where it is. So for that, we will need this text file. We'll need to read this text file and then see where exactly that stone is present in this image. Okay, so let's try to read the bounding box. So with open, or you can just write f equals to open, file equals to open, and then we're gonna provide this labels name, comma, read mode, and then f dot reader equals to f dot read, and then you're gonna provide read lines. Okay, so you're gonna read your lines, and then you can just write print reader, and you can see clearly. So this is the bounding box. So there are, I think, 1, 2, 3 different coordinates here. So that means I think there are 3 different locations of kidney. Okay, sorry, stones in the kidney. So for that, let's try to remove this Solasian here. So what we're gonna do is reader equals to, so we are, since it's a list, so we're gonna do item for item in reader, and then item dot replace, we are going to replace each string /n with nothing. Okay, so now we can read in print reader, and you can see that /n is gone. Now we need to find out bounding boxes equals to. So what we need to do is, we don't need 0, because since we have only one label, that is stone, so for all of these we'll have a 0, because we are only one class, right? So if there are multiple classes like dog, human, and something, so we'll have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, something, the number of class. So let's say we have 5 different class, then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It always have to start with 0. If you are doing a one, if you are only have one class, then it must have to be started with 0, not with 1. So that's why it's 0 here. And then we can go with b boxes equals to, okay, so we have 3 bounding boxes. So we need to do, what we need to do is we need to separate them. Okay, so we need to do item for item in reader, and then we need to separate this item with split, item dot split, and then we are going to split with the space, right? Space, because this is xc, this is yc, this is x center, sorry, center width, and this is height, right? And then we don't need this first information, so that's why we are going to exclude first. Okay, and then we can just print b boxes. Okay, now you can see this is your xc, the yc, width, height for first stone, second stone, and third stone. Okay, so now you can do, from these b boxes you need to figure out the real coordinates, right? So for real coordinates we will be calculating the real coordinates like we discussed how we can calculate them. Okay, so for training we don't need this thing, but for visualizing we are just using it, right? So let's say for this data set we have this in YOLO format, but sometimes you do not have YOLO format all the time, right? For that case you need to figure out how you can create such kind of thing. Okay, so now we already have a bounding boxes. So now what we're going to do is we need to figure out 3 bounding boxes. So b box 1 equals to, so let's say, so b box 1 equals to b boxes 0, and then similarly with rest. So b box 1, b box 2, and then b box 3, and then 0, 1, and 2 since they are in list. And then what we can do is xc1 comma x h1 comma w1 comma h1 equals to xc xh w h. So this is for first xc1 xh1 w and h1. Then we can write b box 1, and then we can repeat it for rest. Oh, sorry, b box 1, b box 2, and b box 3, and then xc1 xc2 xc3 2 2 2, and then 3 3 3, and then you can run it. Okay, so now you have this. So now what we need to do is we need to convert it into their real coordinate system. Okay, so for converting there into a real coordinate system, we need to first extract the height and width of the image. Remember the formula? So I think we have already written out the formula before, also discussed about the formula. I think it's gone. Okay, so what will be the formula look like? So the formula is, we need to extract the real coordinates, right? So the formula would be like, we need to convert it to normal format. So xc minus w1 by 2, or w by 2, and then we'll divide by real width of image. Similarly, for xh, so this is for xc, and for xh minus w by 2 times height, right? For getting our top left coordinate. So for getting bottom right coordinate, xc plus w by 2 times width comma xh plus w by 2 times height. Okay, so we need to do that. So for that we need to first of all read this image. So we already did this, so you can just copy it here, and you, instead of just reading it, you can just write width comma height comma shape or dimension equals to img underscore array dot shape. Okay, and then we already get this width and height, and then we need to calculate xc, xh, xw, and h. So xc1 comma xh1 comma w1, we already did this, right? So we already did this. I don't think we need to do it again. Yeah, you can here. And now we need to convert this into a YOLO format. So from this xc and xh, we need to figure out x1, y1, x2, y2, right? So what does this mean? So this is your bounding box. You are given this x center, y center, and then you are given this height, and you are given this width, and from this you have to figure out this coordinate and this coordinate, right? For figuring out this coordinate, your formula will be xc minus, since you are going back, width by 2, and then times total width of image, because this is a normalized form. And similarly for getting y, your xh minus w by 2, sorry, h by 2 into height of image. And for getting this, you have to do xc, since you are going positive direction, plus w by 2 times w, and then xh plus h by 2 times w, sorry, h. Okay, so you have to apply this formula for here. And then you can just write x1, comma, so x1 equals to, let's say, we have float xc1. So xc1 is a string, because there you can see all of them are a string. We need to first convert it into float. So we have converted into float, and then minus, and then we have to convert it into float w by 2, and then we need to convert, we need to multiply it with width of an image, and then we need to convert it into an integer. Okay, so similarly we need to convert all of this, x1, okay, so we need to convert them. So x1, and then for y1, so xh1 minus h by 2. So I think here also you have w1, h1, w1, and then h1. So xc1, xh1, and then x2, y2. Here you can need, so xc1, and then from here you need plus, and for here you need plus. Okay, and then you are going it with height here, and you are going it with height here. So first x1 would be x1 minus float w1 by 2 into width. Similarly xh1 minus h1 by 2 into height. Similarly x2 would be xc1 plus w1 by 2 by into width, xc1 plus h1 by 2 times height. So that's how you are going to figure out your x1, and then you can print x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, and then you can also have, so let's remove them, and then you can see this is your real coordinates, right? So this is, for this coordinate you get your real coordinate. Now from this real coordinate you can draw a bounding box. Okay, so you can just write cv2 dot rectangle, and then you're going to use your image array, and then you need to provide this point x1 comma y1 comma x2 comma y2, and then you need to give the shape, let's say color 25500. This is bgr, this is blue color, it gives blue color. B is 255, g is 0, and 0 is red channel. And then you need to provide 1, that is your thickness, and then you can just write cv2 underscore imso, and then you can write img underscore array, and then you run it, and you can see this is your stone area. I think we have done some mistake over here in the formula. So xc1 minus w1 by 2 into width h1 minus h1 by 2, and then xc1 plus width 1 by 2
Let
into
XC1 in Y2.
we need to give xc, sorry, p box 1 xc1 xh1. Oh, I think y2, right? We need to give xh1 plus h1 by 2 into 2. I think this is correct. So now we need to do this. And now still we're getting something. Let me see whether we did some mistakes. x1 y1 x2 y2 xc1 minus w1 by 2 xh1 minus h1 by 2 xc1 plus w1 by 2 and h1 by 2 xh1 h1 plus h1 by 2 into height c1 plus w1 by 2 h1 plus minus h1 by 2 let me check. Is this the stone? I don't think so. This large area couldn't be stone. I think, did we mistake it into height and then into width, into height, into width? Let's try to say it. Oh, no, this one is not. Let me go through it. No, I think the same goes here. Let me check it again. I think that it is drawing multiple times. That's why. Okay, so I think this is the reason where it is like saying the presence of a stone or something, right? So this is the reason where it is saying like there will be a presence of a stone. Let me check. I think I've done something. xc1 minus w1 by 2. Let me check. Yellow xc minus w by 2 times width. Okay. Let me check. Yeah, I think we're right. xc1 minus w1 by 2 into width plus, okay. Yeah. Okay. So similarly, we can write, do it with pbox 2, right? You can simply replace this with xc2, right? And then w2, h2, and similarly for x3, xc3, xs3, w3, s3. So you can see like where exactly is that, stone presence. So here it is saying like this is the presence of stone, right? So now this is just for the visualization purpose, like. So now let's try to train it. So how can we train this algorithm? So for training, it's really easy. You don't need to do like a lot of things for training. So first for training, we need to do some adjustment first. So first one is we need to, check this data.yml. So if there is no data.yml, we have to create it. Okay. So we don't need this rest of these things. So we only need this. So in train, what we need to provide is we need to provide the path to the data, training data. So that is, this is the path to the training data. So we need to provide this path here. So let's provide this path over here. And then for validation also, we need to provide this path. Okay, so we need to provide this validation path over here. And similarly, we also need to provide the testing path. Okay, so we will provide 3 different paths here. And then here NC equals to number of class. So that is, we only have one class, that is stone. So here names, we can change it into stone because we are detecting stone here. Okay. And then we can save it. So once we save it, you can just close it. So that is one thing we need to make changes here, right? So this is training dataset path, validation dataset path, and then test dataset path. You only need to do these changes, and then the rest of these things can be done easily. So I think I'm confused. Like, I think we need to give the path to images, right? So let's say images here. Let's say images here. Let's say images here. Okay. So we have given the path. Now what we need to do is we need to just write a command line interface for doing the training purpose. Okay. So for doing that, what we can do is YOLO, and then you need to provide task equals to, you are doing the detection task, detect. So mode equals to which mode? Training mode, right? Model equals to which model you are using? You are using this medium model is the baseline model, right? So you can just provide this model here. And then you can just remove content here since we are inside content. So we don't need to give this. And data equals to, where is the data? Data slash data.yml. So this is the YML file it is actually thinking about. So from here, so why we are giving, this path in data, right? It is actually asking for where is the location of the data, right? So the location of the data is written here, and here you can see it will read this YAML file and then figure out, oh, this is my training image, and this is my validation image, and this is my test image. This is how it's going to figure out. So that's why we are using data.yml. Okay, it's YAML file. And then we also need to write pre-trained equals to, so we are using a pre-trained model. So that means we are doing a transfer learning. So YOLO v8 yarn.pt. And then up to how many epochs we are training. So we are training it for, let's say, 20 epochs or maybe 30 epochs. And then maybe image size equals to 640. And then we can also write plots equals to 2. Okay. So these are the things that you need to provide. So let's say, okay, let's run this. Okay, so you need to provide, okay, so arguments YOLO tax equals to, so let's say, let's try to write it in one thing. Okay, so syntax IMGS is not valid in YOLO argument. I think we have given some invalid argument. Okay, so it should be image size SZ. Okay, so let's try to run it again. So if you wanted to get this command, I'll try to share it in chats. Okay, you can use this command. So now you can see it's downloaded. So it has already it's downloaded its file. So if you do not provide this path, it will automatically download it. But since we already have downloaded it, so we don't need to download it again. So it's loading its backbone. So what are its architecture? You can see its architecture. It is using convolution layer blocks. So it's their architecture, and then it is finally being trained here. You can see it has been running for 30 epochs. So it is running first epoch here. Okay, So maybe it will take some time. So let's try to, do some training in it. So let's wait for like some minutes until it gets trained. Maybe it will require 5 to 10 minutes. So during that time, we can ask any questions. We will take questions from you.
Yeah, Prabhat, I have a question.
Mhm.
What is the difference or what is the advantage of using the YOLO format for the coordinates instead of just having the points coordinates such as x1 equal 0, for example, and y1 equal 0, and then x2 equal, you got the idea. Instead of using this format that requires us to calculate from the center of the bounded box and get the coordinates for the points, just to have the points, because at the end of the day we have 4 values, which is the same as having the points coordinates.
Okay, so what it does is like the developers of YOLO algorithm. So what they do is like they use it as a standard procedure, right? So what they do is like they have created a format, right? So the YOLO algorithm was trained in a format in such a way that instead of providing it like this, they provided the X center, Y center, and width and height. So because this is the YOLO format, because this is the format that YOLO algorithm accepts and then trains on it. So why they do it, there is a specific reason behind it. Because for that, we need to understand their architecture. So how YOLO algorithm work, right? So let me go back to it here. So what the YOLO algorithm first does. So let's say you have 20 cross 20 image or something like that, right? So what it does, it divides, YOLO algorithm divides them into small grids. Okay, so let's say we have object here. So this is a person, right? So let's say we have an object here and it divides it into this, like, let's say it divides that. It divides into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It divides into, let's say, 5 different pieces. Okay. So the first working principle of YOLO is it divides the whole image, this big image, into small grid cells. So each grid cell is 4 cross 4, 4 cross 4, 4 cross 4, 8 cross 8, right? 16 cross 16, 12 cross 12, and 16 cross 16, like 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 20, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 20. So each grid cell is 4 cross 4. So it divides this grid cell into small grid cells. Each whole image into small grid cells. And now how it works, it first identifies the center of this object. Where is this object center? So its object center is, let's say, here. So let's say this is the center of the object. Then let's take this grid cell. Let's take this grid cell where your center is. And then what happens is that, so from this grid cell, you can see where your center is here, and then it will give the coordinates, right? So this coordinate is, their algorithm works like that. So from this center, right? So this grid cell, it takes this grid cell, and from this grid cell, it creates this thing. So presence of class, yes. And then you have to give axis, and width and height, right? And then width axis, that is how far is this axis? You will give, let's say, 0.05, and axis 0.8 or something, right? And width, let's say the width can go, so let's say your center is here, but your width can be greater than 1, because the object can exceed or that can go beyond another grid cell as well, because you can see its center, any object center can only lies in one grid cell. Is it correct, right? Because your object center will always lie in only one grid cell, but the object can expand up to multiple grid cells. So its width can go beyond, like, let's say 2, and its height can go 3, and then you give your class. So let's say it's a human 1, and then this is not a dog, this is 0. And this is how, right, your algorithm working principle is defined, right? So this is how they have the YOLO algorithm founders have written in Ultralytics, right? So that's why we need to provide the annotation format this way, because their algorithm is working in this principle. What it does, so the thing that we are providing, it tries to divide it into small grid cells, and then from this small grid cells, it tries to identify the center point first, and then based on that center, it takes that grid cell, and then from that grid cell, you are going to get this. For other grid cells, all of this presence of object is 0. All of this. So for this grid cell also, the presence of class is 0. For this grid cell also, the presence of class would be 0, because its center is not lying in this. Only this grid cell is where your center is lying. So that's why this grid cell only has the center in it. So, but there is something issue with it. So let's say there are two objects very, very close to each other, and both of those objects at center lying in same here, right? So then there can be some challenges with this algorithm. So that's where the concept of anchor boxes comes in, right? So the concept of anchor boxes comes in YOLO algorithm. So I think it's like very detailed. You have to understand about the architectures, why they have used specific formats, YOLO format, right? And why, and what's the reason behind what is anchor boxes. So they are very specific, because while designing the algorithm, they have designed the algorithm in such a way, right, that they have used such kind of reference while designing the algorithm, and whole thing is written in like Ultralytics in this way. So that's why the YOLO V8 algorithm or the rest of the YOLO algorithms expects the annotations to be in that specific format. So that's why we need to provide the annotation in that format. Are we clear?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we are still on training. So any other questions? Okay, so let's try to understand about these things. Yeah, right. So there are a lot of things you are seeing it here. So one is epoch. So it's nothing like, so epoch is like an episode, right? So what is an epoch? So let's say there are 900 images in your training set, right? So when training, what happens? We do not send all these 900 images at once in neural network or CNN or anything, right? So we do not send directly 900 objects, right? So this is called forward propagation. So once, and there is a forward propagation and then loss computation, this all needs to be happened, right? So what happens is that we have something called as batch size, right? So let's say we use a batch size of, let's say 30. So that means what happens? This 900 divided by 30 equals to 30, right? So 30 batches of data should go into CNN, and for each batch it computes loss. So once 30 images are processed by a convolution neural network, it computes the loss. So how loss is computed, we already know. We have, let's say there are 30 images where 15 images are of dogs and 15 images are of person. And then out of them, 10 of them are correct. And then here 12 of them are correct. And then you find the accuracy. What is the accuracy? 12 plus 10, that is 22 divided by 30. So that is your accuracy. And based on that value, you'll get loss. right? So how many of them are misclassified? Based on this, you'll get a classification loss. And similarly, you have a bounding box for it as well, right? So for bounding box, let's say you have something called as intersection over union, right? So your accurate exact bounding box is this, but your model gives the bounding box this, right? Then what is the intersection between these two bounding boxes? So this part is the intersection between these two bounding boxes. And then this part divided by whole part, right? And then you will get something value from this. And then its maximum value should be 1. That is perfect bounding box is 1, should be 1. But anything that is less than 1, it needs to be optimized. So that's also another loss called regression loss. And it tries to optimize it, right? So based on it, we have various kind of things here. So one is epoch. So we are talking about epoch. So epoch generally means, epoch generally means, so epoch means like the time taken or the episode to, train this 900 samples of images, right? So in one epoch, there can be 900 divided by your batch size. That is 30. 30 batches of image data set are processed in one epoch, right? So next one is your GPU mean memory. So that is the GPU utilization of your memory. So since you can clearly see we are using Google Colab and it provides GPU RAM. So here you can see it is, although it is, occupying 8.5 GB memory, it's actually this, training is actually using 7.3 GB memory. So that is what it is trying to say. You can clearly see here it's also like 7.5, 7.3. There is some fluctuations in GPU uses down the line. So that's what GPU memory is all about. And we have another loss called as box loss. We already take a look about this box loss, right? So box loss is like bounding box loss, like IOU divided by, so bounding box loss is like how accurately it is locating an object, or how accurately it is trying to, how accurately your predicted bounding box aligns with your ground truth bounding box. So that's the bounding box loss. And this classification loss is how accurately your model is able to classify an object, right? So whether it is saying like the non-labeled ones is stone or not, right? So let's say in a kidney, so there are places where there are not stones, but your algorithm is telling that there are stones in that portion of the kidney as well. So that is your that is your loss, that is your error, right? And next one is DFL loss. So it is like a focal loss. So it is actually another kind of loss, right? So that usually tries to, enhance enhance the algorithm, right? So it is another kind of loss. So it's kind of complicated loss, right? DFL loss, let me check. Okay, so it's a different kind of loss. So it's called distribution focal loss. It is used to address the issue of class imbalance in detecting objects of different class. So let's say whenever you have like a class imbalance problem, so that means for here we don't need to have like this kind of thing, because we have only one class. So but whenever we have a class imbalance problem and something like that, we need like DFL loss. So I think we need to work more on it. Like, so let's try to see what is DFL loss. Okay. Okay, that deals with class imbalance that rises when training on data sets on very rare objects. Okay, let's say so it is like giving emphasis to such thing that can arise challenges, right? So let's say in some images there can be blood images, and due to that your your algorithm cannot capture it. So it give more attention mechanism or more, context aware mechanisms. That for that kind of thing, I think these kind of losses were introduced. Okay. So it elevates the class imbalances in classification as well as semantic segmentation. It calculates the loss. Okay, DFL multiplied by. So you can take a look at it more, with it. So you can see how to interpret different loss in your model. Distribution focal loss, class balance is not relevant. It is used for bounding box regression along with CIOU. Although I haven't fully grasped the paper yet, it seems that that the calculations also take into account the vicinity of the ground truth, because the ground truth of the boxes is not always completely trustworthy. To understand it, I believe studying anchor free detection is okay. So maybe it is like context aware training, right? So for context aware training, what it does is like sometimes the human annotations can go wrong, right? So the human annotations can go wrong. So to compensate this and to compensate some class imbalance problems, so they have introduced a new kind of loss function that deals with it. That is called distribution focal loss. Okay. For now, we can just understand up to this. Maybe for diving more into its mathematics, we have to look at into a paper. So another one is instances. So instances is like how many samples were there, right? And you have a size. Size is like what size are you what size image are you processing? That is 640 size, right? And then class equals to all, and you have images. 123 images were there, and then there are 325 instances, and there is like box P, that is precision, and this is recall, and this is map score, and this is your map 50 to 95. Okay, so you can understand this. So precision, we already know about this precision, right? So what is precision? We already discussed about it. So precision is nothing. For understanding precision, you need to understand these four things. So here we are dealing with, let's say this is a prediction and this is a actual. Okay, so prediction 0 and prediction 1. This is actual 0 and this is actual 1. And this is true positive, true negative, and this is positive, false positive, and this is negative, false negative. So let's say what is precision? Precision is equals to, so precision means out of actual positive, how many of them were predicted positive by our model. So actual positive is these all were actual positive. So sorry, these all were actual positive because you have actual, and then you can have like this is positive section, right? So actual positive is these things, but out of this is only true, right? So true negative divided by true negative plus false negative. Or we can also say it like true positive. Sorry, I think we have written something wrong here. Okay. Okay, so since it's 0, that is negative, and then positive, positive, negative, right? So this is positive, but it's 0. This is false positive. It is positive, and it is actually also positive, so that is true positive. And it is negative, but actually it is positive, that is false negative. Okay, so and then your precision equals to out of actual positive values, how many of them are predicted positive? So that is actual positive values, but out of them only true positive is actual. True positive is that means true positive divided by true positive plus false negative. And similarly, you can have recall. recall equals to, so recall equals to out of total positive predictions done by the model. So what are the total positive predictions? So these all are the positive predictions done by the model. And then figuring out how many of them are actually positive. So these are actually positive, but this is not positive, right? So that means recall equals to true positive divided by true positive plus false positive. So yeah, so this is how we will define precision and recall, right? So precision means, so out of all detected objects, right? So out of all detected objects, how many of them are classified as true? And out of all detected objects, how many of them are classified as false, right? So that is how we define this precision and recall. And we also have this map 50 and then this map 50 to 95. So what is this map 50 score of 0.743 means, right? So this is called mean average precision, and that is actually calculated from intersection over union formula, right? So you take an IOU threshold. We take an IOU threshold of 50, that is 0.5 or 50. And anything that is greater than or equal to 0.5, then we have a score for that, right? So that is this score. So 0.743 means out of 100 samples, 74.3 samples have an IOU score greater than 0.5. Okay. So that means how IOU is calculated? IOU is calculated by ground truth intersection predicted divided by ground truth union predicted. So this is the formula for calculating intersection over union. And so sometimes that intersection over union can be 50% greater than 50%. Let's say this is your ground truth, but your model is saying this. Okay. So this is like, what you can say, all of these things are coming inside there. So that means your ground truth, so IOU is greater than, let's say, 75%. So, but what if your ground truth is like this, but your model is saying predictions like this? So that means your ground truth is, so your IOU for this will be, let's say, 0.1 or something. So that means this, so that means, you know, that is a false classification, right? So that is not a good classification. That is not a good detection. So that means 74.3 or 0.743 means we are having out of 100, you know, detections, 74.3 detections are such detection where our IOU is less than or greater than or equals to 0.5. So that is good, right? So the higher or the greater the IOU is, the better our model is. Okay. So similarly for a IOU map 50 to 95, you can check it out. So let's try to do inference now. So we have already trained our model. Now you can see our model has been trained for, let's say, 30 epochs, right? It has completely run for 30 epochs, and then you can see runs and then detect, and then inside training, you can see a whole lot of thing that is inside here, right? So you can see some of the examples of our model. You can see, okay, it is clearly identifying it's a stone, right? Okay, there is a stone, it's identifying here. There is also stone, it is detecting here. So it's detecting stone here. It's detecting a stone here. It's detecting a stone here. It's detecting a stone here. Okay, so these are some of the detections that it is doing. So let's try to run how to run this model, right? So let's say your model has run successfully, and then you can see inside training. So in it, the models are stored inside runs, and then inside detect folder, you have predict and train. So we have recently trained our model. So we have to go inside train, and you can see there is weights folder. So go inside this weights folder, and you can see there are two different weights, which is 49 MB file, right? So these are the weights file which has been stored. And you can see there are two different models. You can use base.pt. So that means this is your best model, and you are going to use your best model, right? So costume weights, costume model weights path equals to, you can provide this path here. Okay, so this is the path to your costume model. Now you need to load your model. Okay, so you can write costume underscore model equals to, you need to provide it. So now you need to load YOLO, and then you need to provide custom model weights path here, and then you run it, and then you have your model has been loaded successfully under the variable name custom underscore model. So now you need to open the test image and then run the inference. Okay, so for running the inference, you need to have at least one test image. So let's try to use test image here. So let's choose any random test image now. Okay, so let's use this image. Okay, so test image path equals to, so this is your test image. Now what we're going to do is we are going to read it using pillow, right? Image array equals to, we need to read this image. So for that, we need a library called pillow, that is image dot open, and then we are going to open the test image path, and then we're going to run it, and then we are going to run predictions results equals to costume underscore model dot predict, and then you're going to write source equals to image array, comma, and you can save equals to true, and then you can run it just the way we run previous model, right? Just the model path is different. Now you can see it's the prediction results been stored inside detect predict2. So let's check our predictions. Predict. Okay, this is not the predictions. Let's refresh it. Detect, and then predict2, and then inside predict2, this is the output, and you can see there is a stone here, and your model is clearly identifying it as a stone. Okay, so this is your kidney, and then inside this kidney region there is a presence of a stone, and your model is accurately detecting it as a stone. But it's still like, when you say, I think another thing is like, for identifying the diameters of this stone, what is the, you know, weight, what is the size of this stone, right? In medical imaging, right? So just detecting this stone is not a, you know, good thing, right? Or not a like, not a good thing. So it needs to detect, as well as it needs to figure out like what is the diameter of this stone, right, inside your kidney or inside your kidney. So that is something that needs to be studied under like medical thing, right? How you know, doctors, you know, figure out like what is the diameter of the stone and things like that. So that needs to be that is something that we could explore on later on, right? So that's how we can do it. So we can also run another predictions on another test data as well, right? So you can just need to change the image path. You can do it. So you can just go it here, and then you can change any of this. So let's take this image for now. Then let's go on writing. We have test for this. Let's test test image path 2 equals to, and then you provide this path. And then instead of test image, we can go with test image path 2. And then you can run this result, and then it will be stored again under direct 2. Okay, you can see. Okay, so now there's a stone here, right? So you can clearly see there is like, I think the stone is something where there is like white object, right? So in a CT scan, like all of them are black and so some of them are white, but it first need to identify which is the kidney here. I think this is, and this is the kidney here. These two are the kidneys, right? And it needs to identify like the kidneys, the stones must be present in the kidney. So the white region inside this kidney is actually a stone, right? So that's how it is gonna figure out, and it is detecting like the stones inside a kidney. So this is a kidney, this is a kidney, this is a CT scan of your kidneys. And yeah, that's how we can do it. So maybe you can apply these algorithms to the algorithms of your choice. What you need to know is like you must need to prepare the data, right? This, right? So, and you need to prepare, you need to have a folder structure like this. You have a test image, and then each image has .jpg with the same name. You need to have this name same, but your extension for image is .jpg or .png. And you also need to have labels folder here, and the extension to image, so the labels is .txt, and you must store, you know, the annotations in .txt file. You must be careful about it, right? So if you do this, then you need to prepare another thing called YAML file, right? So for creating an YAML file, you first need to give the dataset path where your training image is, where your validation image is, and where your test image is. And based on it, it will take the, you know, dataset, training dataset during training. And then you have to specify the number of classes, how many classes are you going to take. And based on it, you also need to provide them labels as well, right? So that's how we are going to train. Yeah, if you have any questions, we can discuss it. That's all from my side. Any questions?
From my side.
Nothing? Okay, then, yeah, that's it for today's video or today's session. So in next session, we'll be working on like recurrent neural network. Maybe we'll try to build a sequential sequence model using recurrent neural network, or we'll try to do something with sentence transformers, something like that. Yeah, that's all for today's session. So I hope you all have a good Christmas. Merry Christmas to you all, and see you all in next week.
Thank you, Prabhat. You too. Have a Merry Christmas.